Thanks for joining me for this edition of the Church Security Answer Man. Today, we're going to talk about contact tactics, patrolling the parking lot tactics, really survival tactics. Just a few things that I want to give you. They're based on my experience in law enforcement, but a few things I want to get you thinking about relative to your safety that you might not be hearing elsewhere. So let's talk about, first of all, your mindset. I want you to have a survival mindset. And part of that is you got to have a plan. So when we talk about what could happen out in the parking lot, if you go out in the parking lot to patrol, and this really applies to anywhere in the church, any inside, outside, but I'm mainly focused on my examples today on the outside, the exterior. So when we're going outside to contact somebody in the parking lot, suspicious person, or somebody in a car out in the parking lot, those kind of things. And so, we got to have a plan. That really is what it comes down to from my studies, my experience. We've got to have that plan as far as what are we going to do? And it starts with, what is your mindset, your pre-planning relative to the limbic portion of your brain? The limbic portion of the brain, if we don't have a plan, it's going to freeze anyway for just a few seconds. And when we realize something's going wrong, something's not right, we're going to freeze for a moment. I don't care who you are. And then it's going to begin to react and come out of that freeze. And it's going to come out relative to, do you have a plan? If you haven't developed a plan for what you're going to do in a parking lot, for like a scenario of there's somebody suspicious in a car and all of a sudden they jump out of the car, or somebody running across the parking lot. If you're not developing plans for those incidents, you're not going to react very well to those situations, because you want that action to begin as soon as possible. So, and the things that I always talk about, I'm giving you my opinions and my thoughts, and the things I always talk about are relative to you taking action based on those. So, we look at this, training today, opinions, studies, facts, it may not be the absolute. We can't give you every scenario, but the more you do, the better chances you have to be safe. So when you look at talking with the hands, if we talk about that, or being aware or practicing, you can say to yourself, I don't need to practice that. I don't need to worry about that. But that begins to take away some of your ability to be a little bit safer. When you start reducing some of those tactics or just the practice for your mindset, that begins to take away some from your ability to have the whole package to be safer. So I encourage you certainly in what I discuss, but there's other people online as well giving you material, or maybe even locally. And I want to encourage you to look at all of it, absorb it, look at it, and take away from it what you see as the important facts. It doesn't have to all be from me. Take away those facts and add that to your processes so that you're even safer, because I hate to see you discounting 5 out of 10 things and reducing your safety by 50% in my scenario that I'm discussing here with you, in those theories or ideas or opinions. So I want you to have all the tools that you can. Pre-planning is what makes us most successful. Given that brain material, when we're talking about tactics in the parking lot, being safe in your patrols, contacting people, I want you to have plans. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? I want you discussing it with your team. If you don't have a team, I want you to discussing it yourself, and looking at it when you're out in the parking lot. Think about those things as you're doing your patrols. Think about, where would I run to if something happened right now? Where would I go hide and take cover? Even if you're armed, where would I go to take the best cover so that I could begin to defend myself or defend others? So exercising that brain is what helps you react under pressure. And that's what I'm after. And certainly, as the slide says, if you can recognize and remove yourself or the problem earlier, that is great as well, a great tactic. And we look at this, it's all the same. It's your mindset. And I want to encourage you, it's whatever your mindset is on this stuff. We can go, he doesn't know what he's talking about. That person doesn't know what they're talking about. I know better. And I just encourage you, you might know better. You might have more experience, or maybe I am blowing smoke in the wrong direction kind of thing, but in your opinion, but at least take a moment to think about and consider what I'm saying and think about adding it to what you already know, to your knowledge, and maybe begin to add it to your practice and those kind of things. The key issue here is we don't control these people that show up to be violent or to be service interrupters or just be a pain. We don't control those kind of things. But what we do control is our reaction. We control our resilience to these things, our readiness, our preparation, our pre-planning, and our training for that. You and I control what adds up to our survival mindset, having all of those items and being ready to take action. We control that. You control that. And I certainly want to see you having the most tools, the most thoughts, the most preparedness for those kind of situations. So I encourage you with what we're talking about today, or with what anybody talks with you about, that you take that material in and decide what you're going to do and help encourage your survival mindset or add to that survival mindset. So, and one of the basics, we've talked about it before a little bit, and I've had some people send me some notes and say, hey, we should talk about the 21-foot rule more. And that is true. Distance is your friend. And that's distance relative to people, places, situations. So whether it's a car or a argument that's going on or some suspicious situation, distance is your friend. And that 21-foot rule thing is, we've studied it for years in law enforcement, defensive tactics, all kinds of military groups. Everybody studies the 21-foot rule. In fact, there's some discussion today that it could even be added maybe to more like a 30-foot rule, if you will. So, but that tells us that distance is your friend, because people can, in our studies in the past, we can see that people can decide to react and turn and run towards you, or pull out a gun as they run towards you and close that distance of 21 feet before you have a chance to do much, like draw your own gun. And so that 21-foot rule is something you want to keep in the back of your mind. We want to keep distance between ourselves and suspicious people, suspicious situations, suspicious things that are happening. Slowly approach those things, because that gives you, when you keep that in your mind, that gives you time to react or to move, gives you a better view as you slowly move into that of a potential problem. And of course, more time to escape or to run, to hide, those kind of things, and to be getting ready to take action. So we're going to refer to the 21-foot rule, and I would encourage you to study that a little bit more, especially if you don't like how I'm telling it to you and describing it. Go look at it some more, because it's an important principle for survival for us to keep in our minds, that we want to be ready to take action, but we also need, where we can, a distance between the two of us. And we can't always keep 21 feet between us and the people that we're dealing with. You know, sometimes we've got to be a little bit closer. And obviously at church, we stand and talk with people and shake hands with people and greet them. So we can't stay 21 feet from every suspicious thing or every person or every thing that we're looking at. But where we can, we want to move in slowly, is my opinion, and evaluate as you're moving in. And if it turns out it is suspicious or an upset person or something, maintain that 21-foot rule until you have to take that action, if you will. So now continuing that discussion relative to, for an example, going out to talk to somebody in a car, somebody's being suspicious. Something doesn't seem right. You know, and I'd certainly like to encourage you to wait for people to get out of their cars, you know, but we can walk to them slowly to greet them. We can walk up to their car as they get out. We can slowly walk up and greet them. Or as we see here in this diagram, we can begin to approach the car. And I would recommend that you do that where you're visible. Now, there's lots of thoughts. I'm giving you an opinion here, so there's lots of different thoughts. I believe to eliminate any surprise for them and to give you the best view is you approach kind of as the arrow shows here. You're just approaching directly to that driver's side car. You're a distance away. You're starting to walk in. You're not sneaking up on the car. You're coming in to talk to the person, letting them know that you're there. Then I would recommend as you start to talk to the person, that you maybe step a little bit behind them. And that creates, that creates a little bit of a situation where they have to turn. If they were going to create some kind of violence towards you, they would have to turn over behind them to begin to shoot or begin to throw something at you or whatever the case may be, which then begins to give you the beams of the car, the back of the seats, those kind of things to help you, to kind of help protect you as well. So you're going in directly towards the person, the driver's seat. You're looking at what's going on, whatever you can see in the car, and you're getting their attention. And then as soon as you have that attention, maybe they roll down the window, maybe they get out. I recommend that you move towards what we might call the back quarter panel, behind the driver's door, maybe even behind the passenger door, and you talk to them from there. So great advantage to you, in my opinion. Gives you an opportunity to be, again, at an angle from them, a disadvantage for them if they're trying to do something tactically against you. And then what I also like about it, as these arrows show, is it gives you a chance, if you need to run because something begins to happen, that you can run around behind the car and then choose the direction that you're going to go. So as those other arrows depict there, what is the safest spot? And hopefully you're thinking about that as you're dealing with this, or you've thought about it, is where would I run to hide, to take cover? Is it other cars, another car, piece of the building? I don't know what that might be in your circumstance, but staying towards the back door, the back quarter panel of the car, gives you the advantage to be able to begin to still put them at a disadvantage by if they have to chase you, then they have to go around the car to get to you as well as you run. Versus what the red arrow shows here, that if you just take off running away from the car, as soon as they step out of the door, or if they're trying to take some sort of violent action, shoot you, then they have a perfect angle to jump out of the car and be right on your tail, if you will, or be right behind you to take action against you. So it's a thought. It's my thought, my opinion, that for the circumstances that we have in our church parking lots, those are the kind of things that I would look at, is moving in where they can see you, walking up, you're smiling, waving, you're greeting people. Remember, you're at a church. So that balance is there. You're greeting somebody, but you're trying to investigate what they're up to, if you will. So, and then when you move to that back quarter panel, you're in an advantageous position to take action, run away, around the car from them, to give yourself a few more seconds of cover and chance to get away. If you go to contact people and talk to them, I have you here in these diagrams as the X and then the P as the problem person. And I'm just showing you that we can use the vehicles. We don't have to go up on the same side of the car as the person. If you have a suspicious person, maybe they're standing outside their car in the church parking lot smoking a cigarette, and you're just going out to talk to them, to greet them, those kind of things. Maybe you're not even going to say anything to them about the smoking or whatever that is. You're just going out to talk to them and kind of investigate what's going on. Go up on the opposite side of the car or the truck, as we're showing here, and talk to them across the bed of the truck or across the hood of the vehicle or the truck. Give yourself a little bit of a barrier there. Barriers are important when we talk about that 21-foot rule. Putting something in between you and them may encourage them not to attack you because there's something between the two of you. Certainly makes it a little bit harder for them if they choose to do that. Little things, but those, again, that 10%, 10%, 10% that we talked about earlier, you paying attention to some of these things adds up to more protection for you, even when you pay attention to the little things, in my opinion. So then we look at the building. Maybe you're walking around the building, the main church building, or maybe it's an outbuilding, a side building, maybe it's a youth building, whatever that is, just a diagram to give you some thoughts. And we see here the building has a couple of small bushes depicted by those green circles. And, we tend to want to follow the sidewalks, walk right around the perimeter of the building. But I want to encourage you to keep your distance, especially if you're looking to find somebody. Maybe there was a suspicious person seen, and now you're searching for that person. You don't want to be stuck to the building. You don't want to be walking down the exact sidewalk where they expect you to come around the corner at and let them attack you. We don't want to be following the exact line of the building. And I want to encourage you to think about keeping that space. So we look here, the green arrow. Don't follow the blue arrow right alongside the building. Don't follow the sidewalks necessarily, especially when you're taking the corners. We can do that in the straight stretches, but if there's bushes or corners, I would encourage you to look at being like 20 feet out from the building where you can, 21 foot. Use that same rule. And as you take the corners, maybe you're walking in the edge of the parking lot to go around the building, but yeah, you can still see you're a distance 21 feet from the building. And whatever distance you have, I know sometimes our buildings might be right next to a street, but I encourage you to, where you can, create distance, because that distance, again, as we mentioned, is your friend. So whether it's a bush or some other kind of an object or a car, I just encourage you to look at those areas. How can I create a little bit safer situation for myself based on this 21-foot rule thing? Where can I give myself a little bit of room for maneuvering or running or those kind of things, or preparing for action? Maybe you're armed and you're going to prepare to take action. That gives you some distance if they were to jump out from a bush or jump out from the corner of the building. Now, I just want to remind you, not going to take long on it, but we do have our church security courses. We have our unarmed church security course. We have our armed course, and we have our leading a church safety and security program training courses for you. All you have to do is look for the link in the description down below in the comments section, and take you right to those trainings. There have been hundreds of people going through those trainings. They're getting great reviews, great information for you, and we've been working to put together some more for you. So I encourage you to look at those trainings. Now, we talked about the objects, whatever we have to approach, go around, those kind of things. I encourage you to remember that 21-foot rule. And, and we had the diagram where we talked about running away from the car, looking for cover. Maybe somebody begins to shoot at you in the parking lot, highly unlikely, or you need to seek some kind of cover or something to get between you and them. I'm just encouraging you to think about these kind of things, and think about planters. Think about bushes and trees and what's around your property that you can use, and where could I get protection from if somebody was shooting at me, versus where could I just hide and find some concealment, if you will. So, and you look at the planters on the left. This is just pictures I've taken from my travels and doing training on the road. This is out in front of a facility. The planters on the left are made of basically plastic, and they've got some dirt in them. So they're going to be good for concealing me, maybe for small arms fire. But the one on the right is 4 inches thick of concrete on two sides full of dirt. So I've got dirt and 8 inches of concrete between myself and the bullet. Much better. I like that. So being aware of those kind of things and thinking through that around your church for those what if scenarios. Here's just along the street side, just some things for us to talk about. This is, I show the first white pole if shooting broke out over here where you're seated, looking at this area, this picture, the first white telephone pole there, or light pole. Could you run to that and find some cover? Yes. It may only give you about 8 inches of cover, but hey, it's some cover for you to take a moment to remember that limbic portion of the brain, that limbic process. Go to that cover and give yourself a few seconds to decide what else to do. Then you can go to the tree as the next item. Now you've got something a little bit wider, a little bit more cover for you. Move to that tree as you're gaining your thoughts. And then you can drop down and find that wall there. What's around your church property? How could you use those things? Trees, electrical boxes. They're not perfect cover, and they're not perfect concealment, but, in a pinch, could you run to those while you gather your thoughts? That's the big thing. It's stressful. You're being shot at or somebody's chasing you. You run to those areas to hide for a moment or to gain some concealment while you collect your thoughts. Same thing here, if and I put a white arrow up in the left corner of the photo. If somebody was shooting at you from that direction, where could you go to seek concealment and cover behind this truck? The cab's full of empty metal. It's glass and generally just a shell. So those tires in the front, you've got the tires, the wheels, the engine. In the back, you've got that toolbox and the wheels. So where those yellow circles are around those wheels, those would be great places. And our parking lots are oftentimes full of cars. So if this is not an early incident or a late incident, you might have a parking lot full of cars. So those are great areas for us to seek out. Dumpsters are great objects as well. They don't smell the best, but they're great cover and concealment for us. And some of them are very heavy duty steel. So they could really give us protection. Electrical boxes, same kind of situation, that we might find some cover and maybe even some concealment there and some protection. The outhouses on the left, hey, probably not great cover, pretty thin plastic, but it would conceal you. It could hide you. And then I like this, laying in the gutter. If you've got gutters in the streets all around your church, if you have no place else to go, could you drop into the gutter? And, I'm kind of a thick guy, so I might not get as much cover out of that and concealment. But for many of you that are thinner especially, you could lay in that gutter. But even for me, hey, if I got nothing else, it's a place for me to mentally remember that is something I could do, is just simply lay in the gutter to get protection, especially if the shooter is off to the right there in the parking lot and you're out in the street in the gutter and have no place else to go. Drop down and hit that gutter. So just things to keep in mind. So as I'm closing up this segment, we're reminded that pre-planning is what makes us most successful. These discussions, sharing this with your team, is great information for all of you to be on the same page and then to start discussions to exercise that mind. That is what is very, very important to me. And I want you to have those challenges for yourself. That's the important thing, is exercising that mind, having those challenges, and be thinking about these things when you're at church with your team, having discussions. Don't forget churchsecurityanswerman.com if you need more information. And speaking of more information, I've got this video right here that I think is very good information for you and relative to other things that you've been looking at relative to the church security. So take a look at this video.